Hey guys, welcome to the match of the week. My name is Chris. Joining me is Alex.
Hey,
Introduce
what's
you.
going on?
That's hi. My name is Hat, the coach of the Oklahoma City Thunderous in the GBA proper. And sorry, this is a little bit late, but we're giving you the match of the week now. The match of the week this week is the San Francisco Arcaniners versus FC Volcarona. Coming into this, George is at 1-0 and +5. Sam is 0-1 at -2. So Frank's definitely the underdog here, but he doesn't have a terrible matchup. At least I don't think so.
No, and looking over the six that they both brought, and even what they have that they left behind, it seemed very evenly matched in terms of matchups and who might have an advantage here or there.
Yeah, I mean, one thing like Toxicroak, that could pretty much run through Georgia's entire team there. Really
Mhm.
by itself if it's got the right moves. Uh,
And
Frank,
looking at what George has brought, Keldeo could even put in some work because nothing really wants to come in on, a hydro pump, especially if he's specs instead of maybe Scarf or Expert Belt.
yeah, the only thing that could really want to deal with that would be defensive Mega Gardevoir, which Mega Gardevoir is certainly a threat to Frank's team. He really only has that Registeel to come in on
Yep, and
that.
even in Breloom, even though it resists both stabs, it's not going to want to be taking hits just because Keldeo hits so hard.
Yeah, and you can always run like a Tech HP Flying or something like that. We've seen stranger things in the
Mhm.
past.
Well, and I
So,
believe, HP flying for a while was kind of standard because of Venusaur, or Mega Venusaur rather, in the meta. So it's something you do need to keep in mind
yeah,
that it is a
exactly.
viable
And it's
option.
got that quad weakness to it. Not super great special defense stats, so it's a fairly even matchup
Mhm.
based off what they brought. I think they both kind of have things that could run through the other's team if they don't have the right stats or right specs going into it. So
I really do like Registeel for Frank's team in this matchup, though, looking at what George has brought, unless he's teching Hidden Power Fire to some extent, or can get Breloom in safely.
well, he's
Uh,
also got Lucario there, and
mhm.
typically flamethrower on Zoroark, but
Yeah, I suppose.
even
Depending on
then,
matchups,
the sheer bulk of the Reggies, you know.
yeah, with using Registeel in regular GBA, it takes hits very well with that base 150 in both defenses. So even if you're not invested, it's still going to be able to take at least one or two hits,
Yeah,
which is
I mean
quite
it's
nice.
it's not incredibly worried about anything that isn't stab super effective, and even stab super effective, it's going to take a hit or two. So
Hmm.
Frank's definitely got a balance of offensive scariness and the ability
Yeah.
for a little bit of defense there with potentially bulky Landorus or
Or Crocodile too could be
yeah,
defensive.
and double intimidate based off of Landorus and Mega Manetric there.
And
I
he's got a
think
Volt Turn.
I think potentially he could even run intimidate on Crocodile, doesn't it? Isn't
Yep,
that
and he
yeah
does have Volt Turn going on as well with the double Intimidate.
yeah? So that's really
Yep.
good. Could be a big thing. But that being said, I think we should go ahead and hop into the match here. What do you think we're gonna see for leads out of these guys, Alex?
Looking at it, I feel like Zoric could be a very good disguise lead from George, disguising it maybe as something like Latios or even Gliscor, and try to bluff maybe an offensive Gliscor with maybe knockoff or something to that extent.
Yeah.
George, I could see, or Frank, I could see, your standard Landorus, but I could also see Manetric or Keldeo just to start applying pressure right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Because if Nips or George rather picks wrong, facing lead Keldeo could not be very fun.
Yeah. So getting into it there, we've have you started the match yet? I should
I
say.
have we
Yeah, we saw lead Toxicroak come in and just go for a knockoff on a non-protecting Gliscor. That's pretty huge. From what I know of the match, that was a misclick by George. He didn't mean to go for protect, but instead got stealth rocks up, and that's going to cost him his poison heal. Um, it does, however, give him vital information, which I guess he would have gotten anyways. That the Toxicroak is running knockoff, which non-standard, and that's going to eat up a set spot there, which could be
yeah.
pretty big later
Mhm.
on.
The teching of Ice Fang though on the Landorus, just probably for that switch in specifically,
Hmm.
being that you'd think normally because most people don't run offensive Gliscor much anymore ever
Yeah,
since Platinum
or
ended.
even just bothering to run the offensive coverage on a defensive Gliscor because this is definitely defensive from the way he's just bringing it in and letting it take hits. But
Yeah, and it looks like that is also defensive Crocodile based off that earthquake damage.
it
But
could be. It's probably just got a little bit of natural bulk in there with a little bit of investment. I think he needs
mhm.
some of the power. Um, we do see the the Gardevoir come in and trace static off of the Mega Manectric. That's a good move by Frank, making sure he's
It
running
is.
static so that he isn't giving Mega Gardevoir a free +1 before that Mega Evolution.
Yeah, and I feel like with the way Frank has game planned and talked about how he's going to prepare for his GBA games, that was initially planned, just because he knew Gardevoir was probably going to come in and try to take advantage of that and stop the Volt Switch and the Volt Turn and or
Oh
just
yeah,
any powerful electric attack.
yeah.
And plus, you don't really want to give Gardevoir a free +1.
No, like we were saying at team preview, Gardevoir can put in a lot of work against this team, and it does look based off of move selection running Protect that we probably are seeing a bulkier Gardevoir, which Frank's gonna have a hard time taking down. I mean, he does
Mm-hmm.
have the Registeel, but
But it's
that's
very common to tech HP Fire onto Mega Gardevoir.
yeah.
For things like Ferrothorn and whatnot in the standard meta. So things like that do play into your mind, even though you're using your more customized sets for this league.
Now,
You keep
here's
in
an
mind,
interesting thing: George failing to disguise the Zoroark, putting it in the wrong place in his party, but still managing to bring it in and tricking the Registeel. That pretty much shuts it down. It's
yeah, because I'm assuming if based on how shallow Registeel's move pool is, it's probably either double status or at least toxic or Thunderwave, one or the other.
yeah, we have seen the
Stealth
Thunder
Rock.
Wave, so you
Yep,
know,
Stealth Rock, maybe Iron Head or Earthquake, Seismic Toss, some kind of move, and then maybe like Rest or
yeah,
something to that effect. Because Rest is its only viable, its only recovery move.
yeah.
But the paralysis does help, even though his Registeel is kind of useless in that sense. Having the Zorak, which is generally pretty fast, uh, this is probably a great prediction on George to get the incoming Keldeo with the extra sensory.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely. It seems like George had a very deliberate plan going into this to trick the Registeel, neutralize it, and then catch the Keldeo on a switch in there. That's the only reason I could think to be running trick and extra sensory is George is just playing this textbook at this point. It's
Yep. And he basically got Latios in for free.
hmm
I mean, he took minimal damage, and this is what we see, I think, if he has HP Fire, because this is a pretty obvious prediction. Just going in for the Thunderbolt. I guess
yeah.
very standard neutral move.
George able to get that Gliscor back in here, and Frank's just gonna sack the Landorus at this point. It looks like maybe he's hoping after an Intimidate he can do something or switch back out, but we
Hmm.
haven't seen any real ice stab coming off of Frank's team at this point. Maybe he's running HP Ice on the Mega Manectric. You gotta hope he's doing that.
With the way he brought it in now both times on the Gliscor, either that or it's a very good bluff. But if he is trying to bluff it, he doesn't really have many other options if George decides to call that and
Yeah,
stay in.
he does predict the HPI or Frank predicts the
Mhm.
switch and manages to get off a Volt switch, get a little bit of initiative there. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I could see him maybe going into Toxicroak, but I guess actually no, this is faster than Toxicroak would be after the Mega.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm assuming
Yeah, if
looking
he
at
wants
his
to put in
team,
work with Toxicroak, he's gonna have to catch it in on a switch.
yeah, I'm assuming Keldeo is going to be carrying HPI or Icy Wind at the
Yeah.
very least, just for this minus speed factor, and it's a relatively good coverage move. But yeah, taking down that Gliscor is going to be difficult.
Hmm. And just leaving the Landorus in here, George running Force Palm for the Technician boost. That's an interesting move. Foregoing presumably the extra coverage move for triple stab, I guess.
I like that George actually decided too to not run double poison heal with his mons that have the ability, and rather more favoring an offensive Breloom
Hmm.
that's just going for all out power because to get through what on paper looks like a very bulky team that Frank has created.
Yeah. Let's see, HP Ice, or some sort of hidden power for Breloom, but he manages to switch the Gardevoir
Mhm.
straight back in, eat
But
that
now
up.
something's going to be taking a hyper voice, more than likely. I'm assuming we're going to see Registeel come out
Well, so
just
far
as
he has the wish actually, so it looks like this is just a super bulky Gardevoir. I don't think we've seen any
mm,
offensive move off of it yet. And that wish is pretty huge, Frank letting him get that
and
up because Gardevoir was almost dead, and now it's entirely back in the game and back to walling a lot
and
of Frank's
and
team.
with the choice scarf on Registeel now locking himself into Stealth Rock. I don't know if I agree with that. I think thought might have been the better play there, just to try to force something specifically out. Because I believe Frank only has one thing that's paralyzed, correct, at this point?
George
Or George,
is, yeah,
yeah.
George has the Zoroark paralyzed. That's the only thing.
Yeah, so you would think by thunder waving, at least you're forcing the Zoroark to come in, and then you can plan around that, where now stuff has to take hyper voices. Because before, then George would have had to weigh, do I want Mega Gardevoir paralyzed?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of that trade-off. Do you want it paralyzed when he doesn't really have anything to touch it at this point, or do you want the extra chip damage and to cut down on the amount
Mm-hmm.
of switches that George can pull out by getting the stealth rocks up?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely Frank behind the eight ball at this point though, and George showing the Will-O-Wisp. So far we have seen Wish Protect
Mm-hmm.
Will-O-Wisp on this, living
And,
at 5 and getting another wish off.
yep, and so it's Wish, Protect, Will-O-Wisp, and Hyper Voice then.
Yeah, that is a defensive not gonna die set right there.
I don't know too if I agree with sacking Keldeo like that. I think at this point with the Choice Scarf, Registeel is your weakest link, or at least provides you a pivot, in some way. But I don't know if I agree with just getting rid of Keldeo.
Yeah, I mean, I understand he must just not have the coverage options that he needs at this point. But at that point, you gotta wonder what does he have coverage for? He just let the Mega Manectric die. Unless he's carrying Ice Punch on the Toxicroak, he has nothing for Gliscor at this point. And that's gonna be a problem. Here we
Yeah,
go.
for
We do
sure.
see the Gliscor coming in, but that's paralyzed, so it's obviously the Zoroark finally getting its illusion off.
And I was going to say that I guess that's another reason maybe why he did go for the Stealth Rock is because Gliscor is still around. I did forget about that.
Managing to, get some damage on that. This thing is not going to live to Flamethrower. Oh, it is. It is going to take that, which is
It's
good.
very bulky.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not able to, stop the Zoroark. So it is going to go down unless he gets some Parahacks here. He doesn't.
Mhm. And
Um,
even just to the leftovers, it's almost like he's not doing any damage whatsoever. Just because Registy's probably not invested in any way.
yeah, no, it's definitely got to be a fully defensive one. You don't see too many people running offense, and then it was tricked specs of all things, so not going to be doing work there.
I don't know off the top of my head, but if based on George's uh, Gardevoir being more defensive based, probably not running much speed, but it's base 100, is Toxicroak Jolly able to outspeed that, being base 85?
I think it should be able to.
My
I
mind has
don't.
been away from the meta a little bit in terms of speed tiers and whatnot,
Yeah,
but
I
seeing how
don't know.
defensive.
I am the wrong guy to ask for stat calcs off the top of his head.
But just going on the way that he hasn't brought it in almost makes me feel like he doesn't know himself if he's going to be faster or not.
Yeah, or he just may not be running Jolly. He could be running Adamant to take extra damage off of things. Because
Hmm.
he would have, things like, there we go, George getting that nice little +1 off the crunch there.
Yep. And I
And
suppose I suppose with Lucario running around, you maybe not don't want to go for the poison type attack, being how
Yeah,
obvious it is
that is
getting
a
Lucario in for
free
free.
switch in. Unfortunately, that's pretty much all George has at this point.
Yeah. Frank Frank got behind the eight ball very quickly with a few interesting moves, I think.
I
Uh,
I would almost say it was behind the eight ball at team building because
yeah, there's a few things that Frank did not bring that I thought would have been a better matchup or matched up well. But it is possible too that Frank was predicting George to bring a different set of six. You know,
yeah.
you can game plan all you want, but if they bring the wrong six,
Oh, and a min that's got to be a min roll there or a little bit of bulk in that Latios living the sucker
you
punch there, taking out the Toxicroak. I mean, that's you got to think when he didn't take out the Gliscor first turn with an ice punch, that
mhm,
probably put him behind the eight ball, and I think he was chasing that the entire time, which is tragically unfortunate. But
it is.
um, that was a really good match by George. George made virtually every right play he could have, besides like the misclick at the very beginning of the match, putting up stealth rocks. Um,
But at the same time, that kind of helped him too in the long run.
Oh, in the end, it definitely did. It cut down on the viability of that bolt turn and just managed to chip away and wear things down.
Mhm.
But not even sure he really needed it the way he played there. He just pretty much had Frank's number, pulling off a lot of easy 1-2-3 combinations, like tricking the Registeel and then going for the extra sentry on the Keldeo. Seemed like George had a game plan going into that, and he executed it pretty well, in my opinion.
And with this being week two, George sets a very high standard for his opponents to come against him now, knowing that they can't,
Yeah,
take him lightly as an opponent. That even though he's kind of the quiet one, he carries a very big stick.
yeah.
Looking at this game into last week's game, he's definitely gotten into the mindset of what the GBA is about and how to play in this tiering in this kind of offensive and defensive set.
Yeah, like
So
you said, when you have a big stick that says you're 2-0 at +10, you can pretty much let that do all the talking for
mhm.
you.
And if you look, I mean, he didn't even have to bring Aegislash or Manaphy or Tyranitar this game. And he managed to bring things like Zoroark that he got for later in the draft and managed to pull them off effectively. So
Hmm.
George is showing that he has a full understanding of what his roster can do, and he understands the depth that his team has.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
really utilizing all of the flexibility and versatility that his roster has to offer, and
I do
it's
th
impressive.
I do think Frank will bounce back. Frank is a fantastic battler, and he has a very solid team. And it takes a while to get used to this format. It's not something that is easy to just pick up on a whim. And looking at his team, maybe a little more team planning will be beneficial. Just looking at the list, I feel like things like Clefable, even Rotom Wash or Empoleon, or even Dragonite could have been more beneficial on this
Yeah,
game than some of
I
the other
think he
choices.
really I think he overlooked the win condition there, and just kind of
Hmm.
maybe didn't realize, oh, Gliscor does a huge number on my team. I should probably bring some stuff to check it.
And
That
it,
kind of
it's
stuff.
it's so easy to fall into the mind trap of this works really well in regular standard play in OU, that it's going to work here. So things like Mega Manectric that you see are normally people's win conditions and normally kind of run through teams. They're not able to do that as much in the GBA. Look at Megazard X as a perfect example of that. It's normally all over the place in regular standard play, running through teams, but here not so much. Both years drafted by two different coaches. While it's gotten a few good wins, it's not as potent because it's easy to plan for in this format.
That's very true and very good insights. Thank you so much, Alex. My name is Hat, again, coach of the Oklahoma City Thunderous, for joining me.
Well,
His
thank you for
channel
having me.
link and information will be in the description, along with George and Frank's channel links. You should go check them out and subscribe to them so you can catch their matches when you put them up. If for some reason you are not already subscribed to the official GBA channel, please subscribe to that. Leave a like, leave a comment, follow us on Twitter. It is at GBA Pokemon, I think.
I
Yeah.
believe, or the other way around, one of the two.
Yeah, it's something like that. You can find it. It's around. Um, That being said, thank you guys for joining us. We will keep trying to put a match of the week up every week, so check that out. We're also going to have 2 more videos up this week. I believe the recap will be going up tomorrow, hopefully, and a power rankings video should be up Saturday, so stay tuned for those.
Are we doing power rankings?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Wasn't sure when we were starting those.
Yep, they start this week on Saturday. Hopefully that'll be when that goes up. So
we'll definitely look forward to those. I know if Chris, are you doing those again?
John is actually spearheading that. I did join him for the recording for this week's, so it is the 2 of us.
Well, you guys will be in for a treat watching that. There'll be a lot of insight on that. John, even though he came in, at the end or the beginning of season 2, did not get the draft per se. He is very knowledgeable in this format, going all the way to the championship game. So you guys will be in for a treat to look at his power rankings and how objective he's going to be looking at every team.
Yep. It's going to be fun. We got a lot of great content coming up on the channel for you guys, so please stay tuned for all of that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.